all of you schlubs bumming around on this giant hobo train that we like to call the internet. This is Fat and Angry. He's fat, I'm angry. And today, we're going to be talking about career moments. Moments in our careers that stick out like a bleeding, festering wound.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now, a little bit of background. Alright, Fats, tell us the places you've worked at previously.
Alright, well, my very first job was a summer job working construction. It was mainly installing bathroom ventilation pipes, making AC lines, and installing dryer pipes into an apartment shell.
Sounds very educational.
It was interesting, and I would say a great moment that I got from that was after I quit and was applying for my first job. I asked my dad what I should put on my application because there was a section called job title. And he says, well, what's the problem? And I said, well, the boss either called me worm or when I was in trouble, it was you fucking worm. And I don't think that's the right thing to put down here.
Now, if you're applying to be a minion for like an evil sorcerer, like the Horned King or some shit like that. Yes, I can always use another worm.
Hire me, master. I am but a worm. From there, I went into Taco Bell. It was right across from my high school, and it was the first place that actually gave me a job interview. And I've actually been...
So, let me get this straight. When you were doing construction, you just fucking showed up, started installing shit, and they just gave you money?
Actually, in that case, it was one of my dad's friends, and
so it's just like, hey, I got a fucking lout of a son here that's not doing anything constructive. Work him.
Yeah, he can be out there working instead of playing video games.
Make him sweat and destroy what little free time he has.
Exactly, and it was good money. I liked it. Haven't made good money like that since.
Have you ever tried like going back to that job? Does that guy still like install shit that you?
About the time that I was actually interested in working for him, I was still in school, and the hours that he had, I couldn't work and go to school at the same time.
What about now?
Well, now I'm just not in the physical shape to be able to do that kind of thing. I've got way too many health problems, and
Well, you look perfect for lifting tote work.
well, I can lift heavy things, but I don't have the stamina to do that 12 hours a day anymore. It just ain't gonna happen.
You can always make you a supervisor or foreman, so you can like do some of that and just yell at other people to do it for you when you can't do it anymore.
That's a thought, but I don't think I have the on-the-job experience to get that title.
So anyway, you went to Taco Bell, which was across the street from your high school.
Yeah, and the way I actually got that job was the manager didn't want to hire me. So she kept telling me different times to show up at the job interviews, and each one of these times was actually during a service rush, so she didn't have the time of day to give me.
That's when you just like you jump the fucking counter, you go up to the office, you kick in the door and say, "Bitch, are we doing this? Are you just gonna keep jerking my gherkin around?"
Yeah, well, after the fourth time, I finally actually got to talk with her for about 10 minutes, and she flat out told me I wasn't going to hire you, but you clearly want this job, so...
No shit!
Yeah, and I was thinking in my head, well, I was hopeful that I actually put in a good application, but, you know, hey, I'll take it. I had a brief job doing telemarketing, and I didn't get past orientation because I could deal with people yelling at me and being bitter, and yeah. But no, I spent 6 hours just listening to the phone hang up on me. I wasn't even getting to interact with people. They just, I'd be like, "Hi, this is click," and doing that for 6 hours, and it's like, no, I can't do this for 8 hours a day. So I left that job and went back to Taco Bell. I briefly worked in a theater, and I got fired from there for a pretty interesting reason.
You weren't wanking in the seats like Pee Wee Herman, were you?
No.
No, wasn't that kind of theater?
No. So people who were initially working at that theater, they were getting close to their 6 month mark where they would be getting a raise. And the head manager did not want to pay these raises out. And my friends who convinced me to get this job, um, they had already been working there before me. I was only there for like 3 months. But we find out about this through one of the other managers that he was basically looking for any reason to fire the old hires before they could get that raise. And
Shoot them.
off the clock,
Pay like a couple of skinheads to stomp them out in the parking lot so they can't show up to work because they have broken knees.
well, off the clock, I made a stupid comment to one of the managers, and I said, "Hey, if I kill him, could I get a raise?" And my friend chimed in, "Hey, and if I hide the body, could I get a raise too?" And the next day, we get called into the office and told we were being fired for conspiring to kill the boss. Because the story she told him was she was on the balcony taking a smoke break while we were taking out the trash and discussing how we were going to kill him and dispose of his body in the trash compactor.
Well, fuck that bitch for having no context of context.
Yeah, well, so I just never admit to working to that job on job applications. It was such a short period of time that I just say I was working Taco Bell during that time because I went back to Taco Bell after I got fired.
Taco Bell, they know you're coming back.
Indeed, they do. Then I got a job at Walmart pushing carts. And when I initially got the job, I had a name tag that said customer service specialist. And after a year, they changed out the name tag to say cart pusher. And I just
That's a real like emotional. That's like, you know, we're moving you up from like customer service specialist to like to peon.
And I looked at my manager and I'm like, wow, I feel like I just got a demotion.
They just smile at you. You did.
And eventually I got fired from that job because Walmart is a shithole and they don't love their employees. So I went back to Taco
Well, they
Bell.
love their employees because if they didn't love them so much, they wouldn't fuck them as often as they do. We only fuck the ones we love.
So I went back to Taco Bell, and eventually me and my friends moved to San Antonio, and it's a different franchise up in San Antonio, so I couldn't just transfer to a new Taco Bell. So the first job I get was at a Sonic dine-in, and I was there for about 3 months before I accidentally set a kitchen fire in my apartment, and they kicked me out, and I had to go back to Corpus. So I was back to Taco Bell. I eventually got tired of working for Taco Bell, and one of my friends offered to let me live at his place for a while I looked for another job. And I was trying to get into this recruiter kind of job where basically when certain companies are on strike, they hire these outside workers.
Ah, scab.
Yeah.
Everyone loves a good scab.
Yeah, so I was interested in scabbing, and they weren't interested in hiring me, and eventually I had to move out of the apartment because I wasn't on the lease. And I get a job at Burger King. They and my friends see me working at Burger King, and they were appalled that I was having to take a chisel to scrape sesame seeds out of the crevices of the floor, and they made me quit the job. So, back to Taco Bell.
It's like, you know, I have dignity. I'm not going to work at Burger King. I'm going to Taco Bell where they treat me with respect.
Yeah. Let's see. After Taco Bell, moved back up to San Antonio. Briefly had a job at a place called Chacho's, and it's a Mexican restaurant of sorts. Everything they serve there is ginormous, and they. I quit because of the way they did their scheduling. They would make the schedule for one day. So if you work Thursday, you get to find out what the schedule looks like for Friday. Then you go in Friday to find out what the schedule looks like for Saturday. And
So you couldn't plan your fucking week in
yeah,
advance.
you only got one day off a week, and they would not tell you what it is. You could not request time off, so you couldn't plan to have a life of any sort.
What is this? This sounds like the kind of techniques they use to like break up unions and shit.
I don't know, but eventually I just couldn't take it anymore, so I got a job at Jack in the Box. And
Or you work for like the guy with the giant deformed head and with the lips that don't move.
yes, and then I had a major health crash due to eating delicious food for too long. And so I moved back to Corpus Christi, got a job at a halfway house for a while as a security officer there. I was let go when a new company took over. They got rid of quite a few of the old employees. And now I'm back at Taco Bell.
And so what have we learned? Taco Bell will always be there for you. Taco Bell will always have a shoulder for you to cry on.
Yeah, they've given me the plaque. Don't forget, you're here forever.
Yes, the Simpsons reference. But you never do get to open up your own bowling alley.
No, I have never gotten to open up my own bowling alley. Maybe I'll try that next and then go back to Taco Bell when it fails.
Maybe you can have them like do like the initial investment by opening like the small Taco Bell in like the corner instead of like a snack stand.
They do have nachos. Alright.
Now, as for me, well, like you got up to your current point. The first places I worked, I worked at Luby's for one day. I worked there for one day because while I was working there, I didn't have a vehicle, so I couldn't leave during the lunch hour to go get food, so I had to eat the food there. And while I ate the food there, I realized there's a reason why I never eat at Luby's, because it destroys my tract. So I got to spend the rest of my workday running back and forth between my workstation and the bathroom. Also, it was bullshit because I was working at a station. I was working the dishwashing machine, which was this giant Dr. Seuss looking mechanical monster. Where it's like, it was literally about, God, it was like 14 feet long and it went around a corner. So it was like this, like I said, it was like this giant conveyor belt of shit that you'd see in like an old fucking cartoon. Where like, something goes in one end and comes out completely different on the other. It's like, raw materials goes in here and out here comes product. And everything else that happens in the middle is magic.
Step 1, get product. Step 2, who knows? Step 3, profit.
Now, it was a giant washing machine that was painful to work with because the thing shot steam everywhere. Like some sort of like steampunk era Victorian like death machine. And I was working too slow. Now this machine had a bunch of warning labels on it that says, warning, do not operate with less than 3 workers. And I was having to work it by myself. And the guy who was supposed to train me, like essentially told me like how not to die from this mangler for about 30 minutes, and then he fucked right off for the rest of the day. And I'm like, well, where'd he go? I was like, is he on a break? He's like, oh, he left. Oh, great. So there goes my day training that I was supposed to get for the whole day. Like, this guy's going to show you the ropes. By the way, he's not going to show you no fucking ropes.
He gave you just enough rope to hang yourself with.
Yeah, so, like, I struggled with that fucking thing. As if that wasn't bad enough. Like, well, long story short, don't ever fucking eat at Luby's. There's a reason why every time I eat there, like, my stomach goes insane and thinks that, like, it can rebel against me. Because the cleaning they do there isn't really cleaning. And I could go into detail, but that might get me sued, so I won't. Second place I worked at was Jason's Deli, which was just a giant game of grab ass. That one I was doing during college, and I had to quit that one after 3 months because A, they hired me on as a busser, and I told them that I'd done dishwashing before, I didn't like it, I wasn't good at it, and I wasn't very fast, so please don't have me do dishes. They said, don't worry, you're just going to do bushing. You won't do any dishes. And 2 weeks after that, I was doing dishes. And for the next 3 months, I was doing dishes. But I still had to do all of the bussing stuff that was required of me. And then they added on serving. It's Jason's Deli. You go through the line. You tell them what you want on your fucking sandwich. and then they give it to you at the end of the line. Well, one of the fucking 8 managers that ran that shithole decided that that was asking too much of the customer. So instead, they were going to take their orders, get down all the special orders and shit at the register, have them sit down, and then chase my ass out of the back with like a bullwhip and a starter pistol, so I can go hand them the sandwich that they're too fucking lazy to get up and walk 5 feet to go get themselves. And also like to go get like refills for all their drinks when the drink machine is like right fucking there. Not even at the line. It is like between the line and the bathrooms. And like, could you get me a refill? It's like, oh sure, I know that your ass is glued to this seat via like osmosis. And that you're incapable of getting up to get it your fat ass self. The most I got in tips at that place was 35 cents. It was a dime. No, it was a quarter and a dime. That's what I got. That was all the tip I ever got there. And probably it's like, it was not the best service because I'm having to run to the back and do all the fucking dishes, as well as bust all the fucking tables, and I'm the only one doing this, by the way. But the straw that broke the camel's back for that one was they kept calling me when I was in class, because I was at college at the time, and on my off days, and this place was a good 10 minutes from my house. And they said, like, we need you to come in. It's like, it's my fucking off day. I'm at home in my, like, I'm at home watching TV, not in street clothes. Like, well, we're going to need you to come in right now. So I would throw on clothes, not even bother to shower, and just rush out there in 10 minutes and say, well, you're 5 minutes late, so we're going to have to write you up. Go fuck yourself, you cunts. Go write you up. Because it's like, yeah, let me just fucking, drink my fucking, like, take my goddamn soup pill, which just makes my soup magically appear on me, cleaned and pressed and shit, and teleport my ass directly to the back kitchen so I can clock in 2 seconds after you hang up the phone with me telling me that you need me over there. Fuck them. I hope they all get closed down. Because I can't speak for all of them, but the one that I worked at, they were just constantly playing grab ass the whole time in the back. Those people didn't know how to fucking work. It's amazing anyone was able to eat over there. Third place I worked at was Slotsky's. The workers there were the most incompetent, ignorant, stupid motherfuckers I've ever had the misfortune of being forced to interact with in my fucking life. These people were as stupid as the days are long in the fucking summer. They were crazy stupid. One of them was this grown-ass woman that had to be in her 40s. I swear to God. She refused to wash the dishes because, and I shit you not, she said a ghost came out of the wall and scared her. So she wasn't going to wash no dishes because the ghost lived right above the sink. Yeah. And that wasn't the worst of it.
I'm intrigued.
Well, the worst of it was the guy I had to work with on the line, who was the most racist fucker I've ever had to deal with in my life. And he hated everyone that was not his race and that was not above him. Well, being that I'm Hispanic and that I look white, this did not help me. Because white was not the proper color to be in the vicinity of this guy. And my manager said, oh, just ignore him and just do what you're supposed to do. It's like, I can't, because the motherfucker can't read. He was illiterate. He was illiterate, so he couldn't read the orders and he couldn't read the instructions on how to make the sandwiches, nor could he read the ingredients that were required for said sandwiches. So I had to read everything to him in close proximity while he would threaten me with the bread knives. Now that's what I call a hostile work environment. I even took that to the store manager and said, what about that part in the... How did he fill out the application, for one thing? He probably had his fucking mother do it for him, the cocksucker. Is like everything's like, isn't one of the requirements that you have to be able to read to have this job? And the manager's like, well, I'll talk to the district manager. The district manager, his excuse was, oh, well, he's been able to do the job so far, so we'll just go ahead and keep him on, despite the fact that he was threatening me with violence constantly, like on a minute-to-minute basis. And that I had no choice but to deal with this fuckhead, because not only is he right next to me, but I have to constantly go over and explain shit to him, because he's dumb as a sack of bricks.
Lovely.
Now, I will say this, having worked in the back at Slotsky's, Slotsky's likes to do a lot of promotions and advertisements saying that they use only the freshest ingredients and that their buns come in daily in the morning and they're always fresh. I can tell you that this is 100% accurate. The stuff that we got to make the sandwiches was top grade A shit. And there's a reason that those sandwiches are fucking expensive as they are. You know, I don't know how big Slotsky's is as a franchise. I don't know if there's people listening in other states, or if there's even people listening at all at this point, that actually know what a Slotsky's is. It's a sandwich shop. It's like a Jason's Deli. But their sandwiches are generally bigger than most sandwich shops, and they're pretty expensive. But that cost is going into the ingredients. That shit was good. I've always loved their food, and having worked back there, they keep everything clean. They're as clean as they can, despite the fact that they have absolute fucking retards working in the back that refuse to use cleaning materials on account of poltergeists. But yes, the ingredients, grade A, top-notch stuff. The buns, literally at the end of the night, whatever wasn't used was tossed the fuck out. Every morning we'd come in, or every afternoon I'd come in, fresh new stock of buns. All the ingredients were new. All the stuff was fresh. Never have to worry about that shit at Slotsky's. And I'm glad, because I still like their sandwiches and I have no problems eating there. Now, I had to quit that job as well because, well, I had to go back to college and their hours just weren't acceptable. Like, you know, they kept trying to call me when I was in classes, and I wouldn't have it. The next job I got out of there was GameStop. Now, of course, everyone loves GameStop on the internet. Yes, the corporation is not exactly the funnest one to work with, but in my experience, they're not really that much different from any other corporation. In fact, the corporation I work for now is very similar to GameStop in a lot of ways, in that people fail upwards, and that the people who actually make all the rules seem like people who've never even seen a fucking retail store, much less set foot in one. But yes, needless to say, anyone who was good at their job did not last long at GameStop. I'm amazed I lasted there as long as I did, because I was pretty decent at my job, but they kind of break you down. They don't want you to be good at your job. They want you to be a good little cog in the machine. They essentially want you to go over there, shut your brain off, and just parrot, like, you know, sales slogans and shenanigans to get sales. It's all about pre-orders. It's all about subscriptions. If you ever go to a GameStop and they hammer that shit into you, and you tell them, I don't want to hear it, I just want to get my fucking game and go, there's a reason that they keep hammering that shit in. It's not their fault. They don't have a choice. They either do that shit or they get shit canned. That's just all there is to it. Now that one I didn't quit and I didn't get fired. I got laid off, like, for all intents and purposes. We were having a phase where our store manager that we had at the time, and we were going through them frequently, the store manager that we had at the time was sunbathing at the beach, not too far from town, and while she was sunbathing, some jackass in a truck ran her the fuck over and completely pulped her hips into powder. So she couldn't sit, stand, or lay down without experiencing horrible pain because her hips were powder. So we went through about 6 managers in 4 weeks before they finally decided that we're going to have to bring in a manager from another store, because all the managers they kept hiring kept quitting. Well, so they brought in a manager from another store, and that's where shit went downhill because he essentially shit canned everyone that had been working at that store and brought in all new people that he could keep under his thumb. That's a problem at GameStop. Managers like don't want good workers, they don't want experienced workers, they want workers that they can control easily. They want people they can control and manipulate so that they can keep their own numbers up so that they can look good on paper, which helps them get promoted. And they're always trying to make their way up to corporate because once you get to corporate, you're golden. Or at least that was always the rumor. But so yeah, like they don't hire you. I mean, they don't fire you at GameStop really. What they do is they just don't put you on the schedule. And if you've been off the schedule for a certain amount of time, the system automatically logs you out and like essentially makes you unemployed, which sucks. But it's their way of essentially. It's like it's what do they call that? Like shit when you're in a relationship and like they just stop responding. A null. They fucking null you. You become an unperson.
The ultimate nullifier.
Yeah, so I got fucking nulled out of existence at GameStop. Thankfully, I was already working a second job at that point, which is the job I currently have now, which is at a funeral home, which has its own bugbears and shit to deal with. But as much of a pain in the ass I have dealing with that job, it's still the best job I've ever had. How sad is that? That's pretty fucking depressing.
Well, my first job as my dad told me, was not in fact called worm, but called a field runner for the construction. Uh,
Shouldn't it just be like bathroom, like installer or something like that?
well, we did bathroom ventilation, dryer vents, and AC lines.
That would just be like ventilation installation work.
Yeah.
Ventilation installation station.
Well, the name of the company was called Southern Comfort Air Conditioning, which is
SoCo air conditioning.
which is apparently what the manager was drinking when he came up with the name.
Why the fuck not?
Yeah. Now, of course, when you're working jobs, you have nicknames for certain tasks, and what we called the bathroom ventilation was fart fans, and what we called
This is insider knowledge right now. You best be writing this shit down.
and the AC lines they called donkey dicks.
Okay.
Now,
Is there a reason for that?
I guess that once you put the insulation around the copper, it kind of looks like a donkey's dick.
I wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know either. I haven't spent a good time looking at donkey dicks. But
I've never been to like a what do they call it, like a donkey show. I've never been to Tijuana. Never wanted to go. I like my head right where it is. Thank you.
well, we'll cover the donkey show once we get viewers and have money to go take vacations.
Field trip.
Field trip. Anyway, well, to make a donkey dick, you have two lines of copper, one's thicker than the other, and you just take some metallic tape and you put them as close together as possible. For first floor, you need a 10-foot line of pipe, and then you put some insulation around it, you tape it up real good, and you line it up against the wall where one of the other workers will help put it into place.
Hopefully.
Yeah. To do things on the second floor, you need 20 feet of pipe, and to do it from the third floor, you need 30 feet of pipe.
So 10 feet per floor?
Yeah. Now, doing it from the second floor wasn't so bad. The third floor is where things got kind of tricky, because they had me go on the outside of a balcony ledge, hanging on by one arm while holding the donkey dick in place, and you had to have the team go run down to the second floor, hold it in place, get it put into position, and then run down to the first floor, get it into
That
position.
sounds like a really, really awful way to end up, like, on the Darwin Awards.
Yeah.
Man fell to his death hoping that he could be held up by donkey dick.
Yeah, that copper pipe is not light. It was at least 100 pounds that I'm holding by one arm while having half my foot on a balcony ledge and hanging on for dear life with the other arm. And for some reason, they thought I was the one ideal for the job to do this. We had some stronger looking construction crew members, but
Yeah,
you
but they're not good at balancing themselves, like, on the edge of,
but you know, hey,
like the brink.
but hey, let's put the miner there.
If he dies, no one will notice. His father can just make another one.
Yeah,
He's young enough that they can start over.
and so that was pretty precarious, and probably the more interesting moment of my career there. Like I said, it wasn't long. Now, there were some days where the foreman did not have a job for us, and so we had the position called pool watch. There was another apartment next to the one we were working on, and it had a pool, and we would essentially sit there all day making gravy money, watching the ladies swim in the pool while eating sandwiches and stuff.
Why couldn't I get that job?
I don't know. If I knew how to apply for it again, I don't even worry about looking at the ladies. Just sitting around eating sandwiches for $10 an hour, no tax. Sign me up.
That's a lot of money back now.
Yeah, it's a lot of money now. um, now, Taco Bell, I've had quite a few experiences, but one.
Well, it was like that seems to be the recurring theme in your life.
Yeah, it's been with me a lot, and I really can't separate Taco Bell from my life because it's been in there for at least a third of it. Now, when I was.
It's school, sleeping, and Taco Bell.
Yeah. Now, if you're not familiar with how Taco Bell preps its food, they have what's called a thermalizer, and this is basically a big tank of hot water. And all the food is pre-cooked and packaged in these plastic sleeves, and you lower the plastic sleeves into the thermalizer, and it brings it back up to edible temperature. And whenever you make something, you say drop. So, like, if you need more meat for the line, you'll say drop me some beef, drop me some steak. And one day when I'm on the steam line, one of my coworkers, she was having a moment of absolute blonde. I ask her to drop me some beef, and she looks confused. And I said, drop beef.
Whip it out. Throw it on the floor. Come on, bitch. Show me what you got.
And she still looks confused at me. And I said, do I need to draw it out for you? And she says, yes. So, fuck it. We're in the middle of a rush. Why not? I go over to the whiteboard with a marker and draw a picture of a cow and label it cow. I then draw next to it a set of pillars with blades sticking out and label it rotating blade room. And I point to the rotating blade room, and I put a plus sign between the cow and the rotating blade room.
This story will never not be funny,
And put an equal sign past the rotating blade room, and just do a bunch of little loop-de-loops to make it look like ground gibble, and label it Taco Bell meat. I then draw a picture of the thermalizer and write, put meat in thermalizer. Bear in mind, this is in the middle of a rush, so, we've got...
No, she needs to learn this.
So, I have stopped all food production while we're supposed to be trying to churn this food out in less than 2 minutes per order to the customers, so I could draw a graph of a cow getting put into a blender and thermalized so that I have enough meat to serve all the faces that are coming in through the door.
Just gaping faces screaming for Taco Bell meat. That's all they are to you, aren't they?
Sometimes.
It's like if you've ever seen those pictures of like baby birds, like when the mother shows up and it's just like the beak just opens up and like their beaks just open like 180 fucking degrees.
You all are my baby birds.
For me to vomit sustenance into.
Another great moment I had at the store, we had this one guy, and he was really prissy, and, he always tried to be really clean and stuff. And we have this one item called Cinnamon Twist. They're kind of like churros, but not quite. The noodles are made out of a corn puff. Most people think they're pasta noodles, but that's not true. They're corn puffs shaped like spiral noodles. You throw them in the deep fryer, they expand, and we coat them with cinnamon and sugar. And he didn't want to get his hands dirty while handling the cinnamon twist, so he is just methodically handling things one twist at a time, putting them in the baggies, which we need to serve kids' meals. And I see him, it's been over half an hour, and he hasn't even gotten one tray, which is 8 bags, not a lot, done. And I ask him what's going on, and he tells me he's trying to keep his hands clean. So I said, okay, well, here, let me show you a trick. And I grab a handful of the cinnamon sugar and just dump it all over his hands. And
there, now it doesn't matter anymore.
he looks incredibly shocked. I tell him, yeah, there, now you don't have to worry about getting your hands dirty.
We've taken care of that for you. That's what we're here for. We're Taco Bell.
But perhaps
I would. He's like, you should have just taken your belt off and just start whipping him.
there were laws. There shouldn't have been, but there were laws. But I think probably one of the nicer moments.
They have those?
Yes, and it is incredibly rare. It took a miracle of Texas for it to happen, but we had this genuine, nice, family-like Hallmark moment. So for those of you who don't know, in Corpus Christi and South Mid-Texas in general, it doesn't snow a lot.
It generally snows about once every 100 fucking years. Like, the last time it snowed before the most recent one was 2002 or 2004, something like that.
Yeah.
And the time before that was like 1892.
Yeah. Well, I'm working, and in the middle of the shift, right before Christmas, it starts snowing. And so we get to shut down the store, and before traveling off, we're just kind of looking around the building, and we all decide to climb up to the top of the roof. And we're just enjoying the weather, this incredibly rare moment. Manager, guy's 6'4", flops on his back and starts making a snow angel on the middle of the roof. And me and the coworkers start throwing snowballs at each other. There's people at the Pizza Hut right next door leaving because their store is closing down, and they see all the Taco Bell employees having a snowball fight on top of the roof. And it was just a really nice moment.
I could just imagine, like, you know, that fight just getting way too real, and then, like, they look back and they just see, like, blood on the snow and, like, you know, bodies being flung off the roof. And, like, one blood-soaked champion in the middle of the roof just raising his hands like the fucking Tusken Raider from A New Hope. He doesn't have a club, it's a severed leg he's wielding above his head like a trophy. That snowball fight just got too real too fast.
Back when I was working at the Staples location, which was the one across from my high school, that's definitely how it would have gone down. We hated each other there. But
I will kill him. Fucking Dune reference out of nowhere. I'm not ashamed. Let's see. I know you had plenty of crazy ass moments at the halfway house you've told me about over the years. You want to tell us about your favorite employee and her very interesting way of packing lunches?
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a fun one you like to talk about, isn't it?
Okay.
About as fun as remembering a root canal.
So, eventually, while I'm working at this halfway house, been there for over a year, I decided to become a manager. And this was a stupid idea, but I needed the pay, or at least I thought I did. And I was in charge of the overnight shift. Now, the overnight shift, the hardest part about it is mostly staying awake. Your primary job is to go through the back dorms, count the beds, make sure all the clients are in there and that nobody's run off in the middle of the night.
Make sure that no one's, like, you know, crafted a paper mache head to put, like, sticking out of the covers.
Yeah. Now, normally, when you're doing this sort of job, there's supposed to be 2 male employees on duty. And the reason for that is females are not allowed back in the dorms unless they're accompanied by a male. So if there's just 2 people, it makes no sense to send the female back there because the male's got to go too, and that leaves the rest of the house unattended. So she did what she could, which wasn't much.
Which was essentially the fuck and all.
Yeah, one of the duties that we had in the overnight was we had to prepare sack lunches for the clients. So that way those that worked had something to eat when they went off to do their jobs. And at the time, we were serving peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And what we did was we took 2 big jars of peanut butter and 2 big jars of jelly, just put them in a punch bowl, microwaved it for 5 minutes until it was just a sludge, stirred it up, and whipped it onto some bread. Each bag got 2 sandwiches, a piece of fruit, and a bottle of juice.
I can just imagine, like, as like you're getting big wooden spoons and just like slapping this shit on bread, slapping pieces of bread together and like putting them in the bag, just like all in rhythm with like the music, like the theme music from Papers, Please playing in the background.
Yeah. Now, generally we had to make around 50 of these bags, so that's 100 sandwiches. Now, obviously, not everybody has the same level of fast food experience I do, so they may not be used to working in a line.
Not everyone's been forged in the fires that is Taco Bell.
Exactly. So I don't expect everybody to be as fast as me when it comes to making the sack lunches. I would say doing it myself, it took me about an hour to make 100 of these bags. Anybody else, I'd say 2 hours, 2.5 hours tops. To me, that seems fair. If you're having a bad day, not feeling well, okay, maybe 3, maybe. But she would spend 4.5 to 6 hours every day meticulously making these sandwiches. And
Was she cutting the crust off or some shit?
No, but she would sit there with her little butter knife and try to make sure every little dab of it, got covered. And
I can just imagine you just like grabbing like a loaf in each hand and just like shoving your hands into the peanut butter and jelly punch bowl respectively, and then pulling them out just like hands crusty with just like this fetid juices. And just slapping them together as like this wad and just stuffing them into a wet paper bag.
Well, I was actually pretty efficient at it, despite that visual. But another problem was she wouldn't stick to a task. Like, the fastest way to do it was just burn through all the sandwiches as quickly as possible. Then you get the bags ready with the fruit and the juice, and then you stick the sandwich, tie them off, and then you put them away. She would make like 3 sandwiches, assemble a bag, and then when she had about 4 to 5 bags, she would walk them across the room. And this was a really big room because it had to hold 100 guys. She'd walk all the way to these refrigerators to put the 4 or 5 bags she made in the refrigerators. And her reasoning behind that was she felt the clients deserved to have their food served cold.
Because fuck warm food.
Well, it's a peanut butter sandwich, so, it shouldn't be warm. But the problem was she was just taking so much time with this. And I was getting complaints from upper management because she's spending 6 hours a night making sandwiches. And I am trying my best to be patient with her and try to teach her a better way to do things. But it just didn't work out. And I'm not going to get into the details of how it ended because I think
it's not a fun.
it's not a fun story. It ended pretty badly, and let's just say she was a moron, and because of her incompetence, I ended up being unable to perform all the duties I needed to do, and it severely damaged my reputation, which is one of the reasons I got cut from that job.
That's one thing that I've never been in like a management position, mostly because people give me the least amount of respect that you can give an object. Like, people will respect rocks more than they respect me. I've seen people avoid running over road cones. I think people would go out of their way to hit me with a vehicle if they were given half the chance. So I've never actually had to manage someone, to make someone do something and then have that reflect on me. Now, if someone wasn't able to do their job and it reflected badly on me because they're an idiot, I don't know if I could refrain from resorting to physical violence.
Oh, there were times that I thought if there weren't laws,
If we lived in a world without consequences,
yeah, um,
they'd still be finding pieces of her along the highway.
I think one of the reasons I am capable of doing a manager's job is I am able to stay calm through quite a bit. It really takes a lot to finally fire me up enough that I become outwardly angry. Normally, when I get angry, I just kind of get quiet and I don't talk to people until I can process it enough to function. In order for me to have an outburst, you really have to have done it.
It's like, you've been very chill. The only times I've ever seen you get worked up, it's always been a surprise because it's not something I've ever been used to hearing or seeing you do. When you get passionate about something, it's like, wow, he's raising his voice. He never does that.
Yeah.
I'm the angry one, not you.
Yeah.
You're breaking our group dynamic.
Um, yeah, sometimes my wife has to ask me if I'm angry because I do such a good job of keeping it down. And right now I'm a manager at the Taco Bell I work, and I'm mostly respected there. Nobody ever shows up on time, which,
That's a common problem everywhere. I have never worked someplace where I have not known at least half of the employees to not show up on time.
yeah. And if I was working the mid shift, it wouldn't be so much of a problem. But I work the opening shift, and every person you don't have on deck doing that 30 minutes of whatever it is needs to be done.
He's going to have repercussions the rest of the day.
Yes, and if my life was a sitcom, that would be the running gag, is that on my shift everyone is late or calls in on my shift.
It was like the Clerks cartoon, how they always kept calling up Dante. And the one day he had off was like the day he slept at like the corner store because he knew they were going to call him up.
Yeah. That, that's my running gag there. But for the most part, they do listen to me, and I seem to be efficient at my job. I have bad days, just like any other human being, but all in all, it's going fairly well.
Now, currently we do have. Now, I've never been a manager, but I've had some of the managers, which are generally the funeral directors at the funeral home, like ask me to like try to rein in some of the other employees. We had two problem employees. Now we just have one. And why he is still there, I have no fucking clue as to why anyone would put up with his bullshit. But he shall remain unnamed because I don't want to get sued for slander and defamation. So I will say this: the one person that used to work there that does not, he no longer works there. Not for the fact that he was absolutely incompetent and an idiot in every way, shape, and form, but because he had a medical issue that prevents him from working now. Now, the problem was he was a very pleasant guy. He was always happy. He was always, like, saying hi to people. He was generally very upbeat. But he was just a dumb motherfucker. I mean, really fucking stupid. The kind of stupid that just ruins everything around you. And the other one that's still there, unfortunately, he's just lazy. Now, in the funeral home business, if you've ever been to a funeral, you'll notice that, like, some of the attendants, which I happen to be one, will be old because it's a job that older people can do for the most part. Well, some of the things. It is like moving around very quickly, lifting very heavy stuff like caskets or heavy fucking flower pieces or furniture around. That's not exactly like the greatest work for someone who's like older. But a lot of the jobs there, like folding things, getting the stationery ready, setting up at the grave site, setting up at a church or setting up in the chapel, ushering people forwards, making the coffee, cleaning the place. Just a lot of the stuff. It's like 1,000 minor tasks is like what the job is. Whereas most jobs are like 5 complicated things. This is like 1,000 very minor things. Well, the problem with this gentleman is that he always uses his age as an excuse. And he's like, oh, I can't do that because I'm too old. Or, oh, and he didn't even say I can't do something because I'm too old. He says I don't do that. And it's like, I'm getting told by the manager that yes, you can, yes, you do, and yes, you will, and so you will. But he'll say yes and be a good little drone when the manager is asking him to do something, but the managers are seldom there. Like, the funeral directors usually fuck off and are doing something else. It's like they're supposed to be the first ones in, last ones out, and 9 times out of 10, they're the last one in's, first one out. It is like we'll have things where like be there at 8, services at 10 o'clock, burials at 11. We'll have the funeral director doesn't show up until 9:30, 30 minutes before the service starts. And a lot of times they'll come in, they'll just be like, frantic. It's like, who's the contract signer? Who's the family? Which one's the daughter? Point her out to me. Where's the clergy record? Where's the priest? Point out the priest to me. How come the priest ain't here? What have you been doing? It's like, what the? Calm your fucking ass down, okay? It's like, if you want me to do your job, then you can pay me your fucking salary. Because otherwise, I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to. You want the extra shit that costs extra.
Yep.
I'm not gonna give 110% without 110% pay. I am too old and too fucking fed up with people's bullshit to be like going with that noise anymore. Like, give 110%. It's like, no. Most of my coworkers don't put in 40%. Why the fuck should I put in double?
Yeah.
And so like this guy won't open a fucking door. He won't open a door. He won't move flowers. He won't park vehicles. He won't move vehicles. He won't greet families. He won't direct them to the restrooms. He won't do shit. And if you ask him to, he throws a temper tantrum. Now, this is a grown-ass man. This is a grown-ass man who's almost twice my age. And I'm a grown-ass man. And he'll start like pounding his fists against his thighs and yelling at the top of his lungs like a spoiled child. Now, you can't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. And he does this in front of the families. It's like, my God, that's the last fucking thing you do.
Yeah.
We had another employee that unfortunately doesn't work with us anymore, and he told me on many occasions, he says, like, this guy's popped off to me in front of the families, upset the families. If he ever does that again, I'm going to punch him the fuck out. And I says, if you do that, I will give you $10. I will give you money because you're about the same age of this old man. So if you do it, you won't get in much trouble as I would. Because me, it's just beating up an old man. Which I have no problems beating up an old man, especially this old man. I would fucking stomp him into the dirt. This is how much this guy annoys me. He is just a useless fuckwit who can't do a goddamn thing. But he's a little brown noser too. And like he always acts like he's doing shit. He doesn't do shit. I wish I could have a GoPro at work just so I could document all the shit he don't do. It's like, look at all this. It's like, I don't see anything. Exactly. because he ain't doing nothing. Literally, I could get a cardboard cutout and a doorstop, and that would do more than this fucker does. Because at least the doorstop will hold open a fucking door.
Yeah. Every job I've had, there's always at least one lazy person. Maybe not one as notorious as that. Walmart, I certainly had this one fellow employee that I wanted to choke out in the middle of the parking lot on a hot summer day.
I will lay hands on you, sir.
Alright, so here's how the job of a cart pusher typically works.
I'm assuming there's pushing of carts involved.
Sometimes. Back then, what we would do is we would take a dog leash and we'd strap it to the end of a row of carts. About 20 is what it could hold. And we'd run the string over our shoulder, walk to the front of the line, and we'd drag it and we'd guide the line with the front of the cart. And what we were supposed to do is go out into the parking lot, go to the cart corrals, go find the carts that were loose and such, gather them up and bring them inside. Now, like any job, Walmart does have its rush moments where you're busier than normal. And so what we would do is when we had the inside corral filled up, we would take any extra carts we had and we would line them up in the front parking lot, so when it was time for a rush, we had these rows ready to just fill it up immediately. And those were the only carts this guy would pull in. So we'd be out there busting our ass, trying to find these carts in the hot summer, pulling them in, and he would just grab one of our emergency rows and put it in there. And the head boss would see him dragging in these rows of carts really fast, so he thought he was working hard, not realizing that he was just pulling our emergency rows. And so we were...
It's always the laziest ones and the most incompetent that get the most praise.
Yeah, so he's getting praise piled on him. We're constantly getting our jobs threatened while we're out there doing the whole hard work. And, you know, if you want to be lazy on the job and you can get away with it, well, you know, hey, I can't say I blame you for wanting to be lazy, but when you start putting other coworkers' jobs in jeopardy because of your incompetence...
That warrants an ass whooping.
Yes, and...
You should have pile drived him into the concrete like Jerry Lawler.
I considered. Now, another time I was working with a group of idiots. They had, well, I was having to do a task in the back, because the cart pushers get tasked with, like, heavy lifting. They took all the carts in the parking lot and made one big row. I did not know that they did this. I just come back and they're like, hey, we need help with this one row. And I'm thinking, there's two of you guys. What help do you need? And then I see the line. It goes from the door of the Walmart all the way to the end of the parking lot, probably about 10 feet from the street.
So they've created a wall of cart.
Yeah, they have created...
I'm assuming this is obstructing traffic at this point.
Yes. And they asked me how I wanted to go about dealing with this. So I shook
Violence. Lots of it.
I shook my head, called them idiots, told them to get to the front and guide it in. And I just started pushing it, and I would stop about every 30 feet or so they could break off a row into the cart corral and push the whole thing in myself. I forget how many carts were in this thing. I actually did start at the beginning and counted each handrail to figure out how many carts were in the row. But I do know it was over 200.
That's a lot of fucking metal to be heaving around.
Yeah, and bear in mind this is on a hot summer day. So.
Well, it's Corpus. I mean, if it's a summer day, it's going to be a hot summer day. There are no other days in Corpus other than hot summer days during the summer.
Yeah. The incompetence was mind-boggling. I really don't have words for it.
There are no words for the level of stupid involved here.
Yeah.
But, well, you'll have plenty more to regale us with, and so will I, on the next time we bring up the subject. But right now, we're going to go ahead and call it an episode. As usual, like, comment, subscribe, whatever support we can get would be nice. Very much appreciated. Would make us very happy, and would, well, as much as it can be expected from the likes of us. Happiness is fleeting around here.
Yeah.
It's mostly just sadness, depression, and anger.
And fat. Now, just on a quick note, if we can pull it off, we would like to be able to make money off of this in some way, shape, or form. If there's any particular quotes of ours that you'd like on a t-shirt or maybe a sticker or something like that, let us know in the comments section. We'll see what we can do about getting you guys some merch.
Also, if you can, definitely, if you have any suggestions for stuff you want us to talk about, we'd love to hear them. Can't promise we'll get to any of them because, well, we have day jobs, so having to read the comments would be something, if we get any comments to begin with. If there's just a few, they'll be a lot easier to go through, but if it's like a giant string of comments all saying, fuck you guys, stop doing this, no one likes you, kill yourselves, and stuff like that, obviously there's not much to reply with at that point. But, you know, constructive criticism would be nice.
Yeah.
Keyword on constructive, less emphasis on criticism. Glowing praise. Gushing praise would be very much preferred. But in the meantime, definitely stay tuned for the next episode where we will talk about some other such fucking rigmarole.
And bacon.